Snap. Back to reality. Oh shit, there goes gravity. Snap. I woke to the unnerving sound of something extremely tense and tough, like a piano string seemingly snapping in two. There was a ringing in my ears. I could see the contours of a traditional Japanese room in my hazy vision. Most of it had been overtaken by darkness, almost giving me the impression that I was deep underwater. The ringing suddenly grew worse and my eyes misted over. I was sure that every monster known to man was lurking within that darkness, glaring at me with hungry eyes. Cold sweat covered my forehead. I slowly rose to my feet, careful not to make a sound, and continued to the kitchen. I found a cup and turned on the tap. The moment the water hit the sink, it sounded almost like standing next to a waterfall. I hurriedly stuck out my cup to block the stream. I took a sip of the ominously sloshing liquid. My eardrums nearly exploded at the sound of water passing through my throat, making me fall to my knees in surprise. I made myself focus on the cold sensation in my stomach for relief. I leaned against the stove and embraced my knees. Closing my eyes, I remembered that special trick a friend once taught me that would always help me fall asleep. I would imagine myself floating in the middle of an empty sea. However, no matter how hard I tried now, a raging storm would come to carry me away. I slightly opened my eyes and saw Mayuko sleeping in the night duty room. Reminding myself that I wasn't alone in this storm, I closed my eyes again. How certain are we about that?
About?
Because we had a couple of theories about Mayuko's relationship to Takako here, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it was really Sachiko, or if Sachiko was thought she was now Takako. The other explanation is that Sachiko had these same symptoms and was hallucinating Takako being there.
Yeah.
What if Takako was hallucinating this person, Mayuko?
Yeah.
That is the other.
I haven't thought of that.
The thing is, we're aware that something is up, and yet we have so many possibilities for what it could be. I like that. It's a game that kind of meets you on your level to begin with. It's like, oh, you already think you know all the twists, right? Okay, hold on. What if we gave you one of these? What do you do now, huh?
Sidebar. Is the static quieter in the right ear?
Let me check. Maybe a little bit. I don't know if that's just my eardrums or...
Because I noticed that I had it off one ear, then I put it on all the way, and it still sounded the same. And then I was like, oh no, is this how I learned that one ear is worse?
I mean, I guess a little bit? I don't know. It could be my ears, too.
Anyway.
You want to read your line, Mayuko?
What? Oh.
You don't have to read your line if you don't want to. That's fine.
You had another fit?
Mayuko's voice rolled out like thunder. As I opened my eyes, I saw her rising from her futon and coming over to me. I closed my eyes again and responded by furrowing my eyebrows. I heard the rustling of clothes. Mayuko probably crouched down in front of me. Something touched my ears. Felt as though there was an intense raging gust of wind trying to escape my ear canals now that this warm sensation had blocked it. I could hear the sound of pulsing blood, but it wasn't mine. As I began to focus on that sound alone, the others gradually faded out. Mayuko was covering my ears with both of her hands. The somewhat nostalgic sound of pulsing blood drowned out all other noises. Somewhat nostalgic, huh? So this is something that, if this is Takako, that's something Sachiko had done for her before to...
I didn't mean to wake you. I'm sorry.
I tried saying that, but with my sense of hearing completely going haywire, I wasn't sure whether my voice actually came out or not. Mayuko remained silent, keeping her warm hands on my ears. That warmth slowly traveled down to my frozen cheeks. I felt the storm drawing further away. The noise at my eardrums was gradually subsiding with every passing second. As my heart rate began to drop, I finally began calming down. The violent sounds drilling through my brain had finally died down. I touched Mayuko's hand, signaling that she could let go.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay now.
Mayuko tilted her head to look at my face in the moonlight.
The area around your eyes seems reddish. Did you have a scary dream?
I closed my eyes, trying to recall what had happened right before that fit.
I think I did have a dream, but it wasn't scary. If anything, it made me feel warm and nice.
I couldn't recall exactly what the dream was about, though. And I didn't feel like trying too hard either, especially after that nightmarish, ear-ringing fit I'd just had.
Will you be able to go back to sleep now?
I took a few moments to make sure everything around me sounded okay, then slowly nodded. On the other hand, with my mind finally clear, I couldn't help but wince at what all this implied.
Let's make sure to check your diary tomorrow and see if you haven't forgotten something again, okay?
Okay.
Is it meant to be the fits are a cue that something is being at that time forgotten?
I don't know if that's...
Oh, more tips.
Narasaki Clinic consultation room has been unlocked. Bedroom has been... Oh, we got a couple new ones.
I like tips.
All right, let's tip out some tips. Just the tips. Go to a restaurant, order some steak tips. Chapter 2. All right.
Is it just me or are the chapters shorter than the prologue?
That one took 3 episodes to get through. The prologue took 4. A little bit shorter. Yeah, a little bit. Around the same magnitude, though.
Okay.
Let's save.
This game's cool.
This game is very cool. I'm glad you're enjoying. I know it took a little while to kind of like show its hand. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad we got there.
Consultation room.
We've seen room 08, 208. We've seen but consultation room and bedroom are the new ones. I believe I was reading these ones, right? Yeah. I realized I'd been sleeping at the desk of my examination room. The clock displayed the time as 10 p.m. I fixed up my hair, stood up, and took a can of beer from the fridge, which I keep in my office for reasons unknown. I turned on my portable radio and, after adjusting the volume, focused my attention on writing the daily report. I might have called it a report, but it was no more than a rough list of what had happened during the day, separated into a few sections. As such, I finished writing it with little difficulty. I also made a note on Sachiko's overall condition. She had yet to tell me anything vital. However, I felt like it was about time for me to act. With Takako gone, Sachiko came to live on her own. I had my doubts that she could survive for long in her current condition. A song I used to listen to came on the radio. I paused and took the open beer can from the side of the table, but it was already empty. I stood up, walked to the freezer, and took out another can. I opened it, and after taking a gulp, shifted my gaze to the little window in the corner of the room. I could see the moon shining brightly in the cloudless sky. The sight made me calm down a little. I flipped through the pages of one of the medical records I brought from the library. The early reports really did look more like a diary than anything. It was full of stories about Sachiko, me, and her usual companion Takako. Wait. That's a weird way of phrasing that, isn't that?
Why would it be like a diary? Why
would you phrase it if this is Sachiko's diary? Why would you phrase it? It was stories about Sachiko, me, and her usual companion. Doesn't that make it seem like it's someone else?
How do you mean?
Because if this was Sachiko's diary, wouldn't you say it was full of stories about her, myself, and her usual companion Takako? It's strange. It's strange because it implies that the diary could be someone other than Sachiko's.
Wait, what does?
I flipped through the pages of one of the medical records I brought from the library. The early reports really did look more like a diary than anything. It was full of stories about Sachiko, me, and her usual companion, Takako. Given that sentence, who do you assume the reports belong to?
Good question. I don't think we know.
That was my point.
Okay. I was thinking the same thing, but didn't realize that you were trying to lead me to the same spot.
Oh,
so,
no, sorry.
Because it's odd that this is a medical record, but looks like a diary. It's full of stories about Sachiko, but like, what's up? Clearly, it's not the medical records from the sessions we saw. It's some other thing.
Yeah.
And whose the fuck is it? Why is it?
Like, I assume it's Sachiko's, but it's worded so weaselly that it might not be.
Why would Sachiko's diary be in the medical records if it was Sachiko's?
Because she's clearly been to the clinic before.
Even so, do you typically put a childhood diary, take a childhood diary and stick it in the records?
No, but it seems to me like, at least from what we saw of Takako's scene, she was keeping a daily diary as something that might kept alongside her medical record as a way of... Yeah, it's not unreasonable that, given the kind of care that these two seem to be receiving, that might be something that is in with their...
Okay, so this is on track. Sachiko is far worse off than she appears to be, and has been institutionalized. And
I don't necessarily know if she's been institutionalized. I think it's not unreasonable, but I definitely think that I think that having her be aware of how much she's forgetting is kind of like a blind almost. Like, I think she's also, like, she might be aware of it, but she's also much worse off than we know.
Yep.
I'd see Sachiko maybe once or twice a year after we graduated elementary school, but Takako seemed to have been with her for the entire time. Those two were quite peculiar characters, to say the least. As I finished reading the page, I realized the volume of the radio had gone down. Glanced at the radio, I saw the red lamp indicating the life of the two AA batteries powering it had grown dim. It was about to go out completely. I considered removing the batteries and putting them back in. I even toyed with the idea of just shaking the radio. It was an old thing, though, with certain parts of it already rusted away, so I ultimately changed my mind. Oh, whoops. I finished listening to the distorted sound of the radio with a beer can in one hand, then focused on finishing my report.
Oh, hospital beers.
You don't have to be drunk to help work here, but it helps. After a while, I realized I could hear a faint sound alongside the scraping noise of my pen against the paper. I paused, raised my head, and strained my ears to listen. It was coming from somewhere close by. The more I listened, the more it sounded like someone's voice. I had no idea who was talking or what was being said, but it felt like someone had been whispering somewhere in the vicinity. I took a closer look at the radio, thinking it might have honed in on some weird wavelength, but its light had already gone completely dark. I considered the possibility of sounds from Sachiko's room traveling all the way here due to some peculiarity of the mansion's design. So this is indeed that mansion. Even though this is the office we saw that was apparently hers downtown.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So that gives more credence to Sachiko not actually being out in the world like we assume she is.
Yeah.
Or this could just be some Denpa stuff now. Who knows? Although I could no longer hear anything, urged by curiosity, I left my room. Yep. I had a slightly bad feeling on my way to Sachiko's room. It felt as though the corridor was colder than usual. The closer I got to her room, the colder it felt, and the worse my feeling of premonition became. My first thought upon reaching her room was to open the door. However, I then realized that there was no light coming from her room and that it was pretty much the middle of the night. I decided to first check if there were any sounds coming from the room first. Placing my ear against the door, I listened in. I felt like I could vaguely hear something when I was walking toward the room, but now it had fallen into complete silence. After spending another minute or so listening, I still heard no voices whatsoever. I began to wonder if it hadn't just been my imagination playing tricks on me all along. In the end, I pulled back from the door and gave it a light knock. There was no answer. I unlocked the door and slowly pushed it open to make a small gap, all the while careful not to make a sound. This is Sachiko's room, okay. The cold seeping out of the inside made my skin tingle. The faint ray of light making its way inside from the corridor gave the pitch-black room some color. I stopped, pushing the door by the time the light reached up to the bed, and strained my eyes as I looked into the darkness. However, Sachiko wasn't there. I pushed the door open and entered the room. Sachiko was nowhere to be seen. What a creepy little track we got there for like 12 seconds.
Yeah. What does that mean? And why is it that we're both
Why is that
getting...
one purple?
What?
Why was that one purple?
Is that Narasaki's color?
Sachiko's?
The doctor.
Oh, I thought hers was orange.
Good question.
Yeah. What were you saying before I cut you off rudely?
It's interesting how we both get stuff about, don't know how Sachiko could survive on her own like this and so on, as though she had been. But then also she's here and has a room here, but also she's not here.
Yep. It's very strange. Part of me is still wondering whether or not some of these scenes are meant to be taken in the sense that, like, she is somehow inspecting her memories.
Maybe.
Like, there's somehow a way that she is visualizing the space of Sachiko's memories and inspecting them in that manner.
Like, this is the hypnosis sessions or something?
Yeah, or something like that, where she's, like, using some method to visualize and walk, like almost like creating a mind palace of her stuff that she's able to navigate. But I don't know if we're going that level of sci-fi yet. Anyway, one more. Also, the music they chose for this is very creepy. No matter where I looked, Sachiko was nowhere to be found. I considered the possibility of having mistaken the rooms, but after taking a better look, the sheets on the bed were obviously wrinkled. I tried coming up with the most likely possibilities for Sachiko not being there. It wasn't exactly the time to go outside, but perhaps she couldn't sleep and wanted to take a walk in the night. However, I also had the feeling that it would not be something so simple. I returned my attention to the room. It was much colder in there than out in the corridor, but its window was closed. I couldn't quite understand how that could have happened. However, I felt the room had the answers to her disappearance, and as such I decided to investigate it. The room seemed even darker than usual. I could barely make out the contours of the plants in the corner. It was possible that my eyes were just tired, or that there was something else I didn't think of, but I had a very, very bad feeling about this. As I raised my face after checking the other side of the bed, I finally realized that there was something left atop it. It was the book that Sachiko used to read all the time after coming here.
Is it called fucking SeaBed?
Is it called fucking SeaBed? I picked it up to realize that it was not a book, but rather a notebook with a leather cover. There was nothing written on either the cover nor the back. I checked its weight with one hand. After a quick glance around the room, I returned my attention to the notebook. I felt hesitant to read her personal notes, but I had no other leads. Besides, Sachiko had never left it like this before. I made up my mind and opened it. There were no separate sections to indicate schedules. Instead, it was just a regular notebook with ruled lines. One neatly handwritten line followed the other, making up sentence after sentence. This is Sachiko writing, so...
I failed to buy the extra cheap cuttlefish for 100 yen, so I bought 2 sea breams for 200 yen instead. I paid 100 yen for my daikon, but then found one at the grocery that only cost 80. It's probably best to buy your fruit and vegetables at places like that. I went on a drive to the mountains with Sachiko.
What if Sachiko thinking she is Takako is correct? Because she's writing about herself, or no, she was reading this.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't necessarily something that she's written herself,
Mm-hmm.
It's something that she's reading.
On our way back, Sachiko spotted a pussy willow. When I plucked one of its branches for ourselves, she worriedly asked if it was okay. But when we got home, she decorated our entrance with it.
Sachiko's name came up, so I assumed this note was most likely written by Takako, here voiced like she is Sachiko because we we don't plan this stuff out. At first, the notes seemed to be mostly about cooking, but as I went on, I realized she was noting down every single detail with little to no consistency. The date on the first page was from a year ago, and then the notes continued jumping ahead days, sometimes even weeks, until they suddenly ceased, leaving most of the notebook blank. I checked the later pages to confirm if it really was blank, then flipped through the entire thing again, trying not to get too caught up in the details. There was a point where the writing suddenly changed. It seemed like some of these were written by Sachiko. The room suddenly grew completely dark. Turning around, I noticed the door had closed behind me. Thinking that Sachiko might have returned, I closed the notebook. But it wasn't anything anywhere near as nice. As my eyes slowly grew used to the dark, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The foliage plants by the door had disappeared. The bookshelf changed into a wardrobe, and there was now a new closet by the wall. Before I knew it, I was standing in a completely unfamiliar room. I felt a bitter chill rise up my spine as I confirmed that the notebook in my hands had not changed. I turned around to see an unfamiliar bed with curtains, underneath an unfamiliar ceiling. I pulled one of the curtains aside and looked at the bed. Takako was sleeping on her back, with Sachiko nestled against her. What was going on? Trying to keep up with this unexpected situation, I gave my surroundings another scrutinizing look. I started with Takako's face. My intuition told me that this Takako wasn't exactly alive. Then I realized I had missed something. The date on the first page of the notebook was last year. In other words, this notebook might contain a description of Takako's death. I wonder why I failed to realize that as soon as I saw the date, but then again, weirder things had been happening around me tonight. I couldn't blame my head for not being able to keep up. As I was organizing my thoughts, Sachiko slightly moved. Her eyelids slowly opened. I felt like time itself had stopped. Before long, however, I found myself transported back to the familiar confines of room 208.
Interesting.
Fascinating. So room 208, Sachiko's room. She seems to think Takako is indeed dead.
Mm-hmm.
And while we haven't had any reason to doubt her yet as a narrator, but we're doubting the other two narrators. Why not doubt the third at this point?
I mean, we are doubting her in the sense that probably rooms don't randomly change into other rooms and objects not appear and disappear and so on. So I think we are doubting all three.
We're doubting her in the sense that, well, we're doubting her in a different sense. I think we're not doubting her in the sense that she's not accurately reporting what's going on. I think we're doubting her in the sense that we don't understand the context of what we're seeing just yet, which I think is important to differentiate. The smell of a winter forest assailed my nostrils as the train's car's doors slid open. The platform I stepped on seemed to be made of stone. A gust of cold, humid wind blew a bunch of dried leaves up the mountain.
The rusted train left the station, its sluggish movement reminding me of an old man with a cane. The station was silent enough for me to make out even the rustling of grass. Stepping inside the station, I spotted a sign with the station name spelled out on it. There was also a bluish plastic bench, its faded color the result of constant exposure to rainfall. Likely no one had sat on that thing in months. I took a few steps forward on the uneven, stone-paved road with patches of grass sprouting from its cracks. My suitcase's wheel got stuck in one said crack. Realizing I wouldn't get far like this, I picked it up and continued carrying it in my arms. I could see a large oak tree in front of the station. The station itself was a wooden building sporting wooden window frames with a bored, yawning station warden loitering around its vicinity. I began rummaging through the bag in my hands, looking for my magnetic ticket card. As I walked closer to the ticket machine, the warden finally noticed me. He was wearing a blue uniform, but his tie was crooked and he had no cap on. I soon spotted the cap hanging on the wall next to the desk he was sitting at. I finally found my wallet. Exiting the station, my gaze once again fell on that same oak tree from before. Upon closer inspection, I noticed it was somewhat slanted, hanging above the narrow road that only had space for a single car. Speaking of which, there was an old-looking car parked at the side of it. And next to said car stood a long-haired woman in a kimono. She was fixing her hair, looking at her vague reflection in the car window. As I approached her, she spotted me and turned around.
I'll take this one.
Okay,
Oh, Miss Mizuno.
that's right.
Oh, no, that's you. Right, because this is the girl she met in Italy.
Okay, she looks different.
She looks different now, yep.
Oh, that's right. Long time no see.
It really has been a long
never-
time. Oh, what?
It really has been a long time, hasn't it?
You came to pick me up.
Of course I did. Oh, hey, just put your bag here.
She opened the rear door of the car, her graceful movements in odd contrast with her somewhat crass manner of speech.
Oh, is she supposed to have like a Kansai accent or something? The equivalent of that is now a British accent. I'm trying to think of what... Because it's a 50-50 whether localizers will make it a Southern American accent or a British accent. Or like more like 75-25, because I've seen it as British before.
Really?
Like the new game localization
Interesting.
turns the Kansai accent into a British one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think it'd be funny if they kind of took a wandering tour of the Anglosphere and tried some other ones.
Okay. Do you...
Oh, so what's that all about, eh?
That's what we're sticking with. This will be a great time for me to practice my Canadian accent again.
With my bag on the back seat and me sitting at the front, our car began climbing the mountain path. Nanai was at the wheel. Seeing someone driving in a kimono was an odd sight to say the least. Still, she had to stuff her long sleeves into her sash and take off her clogs. We slowly but surely ascended the mountain, following the twisting, chaotic road. Near the curve to our left, we saw a rusted guardrail and a round mirror on an orange pole. To our right stretched the vast mountain slope, illuminated by sunlight filtering through the multitude of naked branches, their leaves long since shed. Nanai sounded a brief chuckle.
The fancy magnetic train car won't work here.
Seems that way, yeah. I'd never even considered it.
So that's why it took a while for you to get out of the station. You totally caught me off guard since I figured you'd be coming with the next train, eh?
I watched the patchy shadows of the foliage above dance upon the surface of the road. Apparently it had rained here recently. The few remaining drops of water sparkled on the leaves in the late afternoon sun. The car tilted a bit as its tires drove into one of the deeper puddles of the road with an audible splash. I held on to my seat, doing my best to maintain my balance.
Better watch out. The roads around these parts can get pretty tricky.
Noted. The car seemed to have lost its seatbelt over the years, so I had no choice but to rely on the door handle to keep myself in place. The leather seat would change its shape with every jerk of the car. Though rough to the touch, the seat wasn't uncomfortable to sit on. It accepted my weight with just the right amount of resistance. The interior wasn't made of cheap resin sheet, but quality wood, most likely the only reason it hadn't completely fallen apart by now. I spotted an animal toy that looked like a cat with long ears and a small bottle with aromatic dried flowers hanging from the front mirror. The car's interior had that certain vintage smell to it, with the hint of an orange-like fragrance lingering about as well.
The sea will come into view in just a second on our left.
Her words made me shift my gaze to the window. Through the leaves of chinquapin trees and wild camellia bushes, I could make out a small port town as well as the sea further beyond it. As I admired the deep blue hue of the waves visible through the moving foliage of this tree that I don't know what type it is and can't pronounce, so I'm sorry, a high-pitched sound, almost like a flute, filled my ears out of nowhere.
I would have guessed like chinkapin or something like that.
Yeah, I can't tell if it's like a very Anglo word and it's going to be exactly that, like chinkapin,
Yep, or if it's...
or if it is a transliteration of a like 3-character Chinese name for a
Yep.
tree that's like Chin Shua Pin. How's the Q? Is the Q a ch sound?
I think the
forget.
Q is a ch sound in Chinese. Don't
Yeah.
quote me on that. I do not know that for a certain fact.
Yeah, so who knows? Hopefully this type of tree doesn't come up again before the next time that I
See.
check Wikipedia. Was that a green pigeon? I fought with the handle for a while to roll down the stubborn window. The wind, carrying the salty scent of the sea, blew into my face. I brushed the hair off my face and listened in to the cries of winter birds as the cold wind caressed my skin. We managed to continue on a proper road for a while, but soon enough we were back to driving through a rough, mountainous path.
If we continued down that road, we would have ended up at the port.
Nanai began telling me how she participated in some hotel owner meeting in the town earlier today, and how she spent the rest of her time in the market district shopping for supplies. Apparently, she managed to find some unusually choice ingredients at a bargain price. In other words, I had dinner to look forward to. The trees became more scarce as we climbed higher up the mountain. There was almost nothing blocking my view of the port town anymore. From this angle, it looked like a split bowl opening to the sea. There were no tall structures in sight. The lack of obvious office buildings gave the land a sense of serenity and calmness. It really made me feel like I'd entered the countryside. I spotted an arch that indicated the entrance to a shopping district. Beyond it, small buildings with red and blue roofs lined the road like a mosaic. As the road edged closer to the sea, even those buildings became scarcer. There were ships and boats of various sizes, anchored on the other end of the big levee surrounding the town. Some were even sailing into the sea as I watched. I noticed a lot of poles embedded in the bay area, a little further away from the city. Are you building something there?
I think those are seaweed farms, eh?
Oh,
I love seaweed. How about you, Sachiko?
I don't mind it.
Oh, in that case, you should take some home with you. We got plenty.
We're
We're almost there.
As we cleared another curve with lush and blooming red camellia bushes, I suddenly felt as though I saw a thin line connecting the mountain and the port town.
Can you see the gondola cable? I had to bring in lots of stuff with me today, so I used the car, but usually it's a lot faster to just use that to get down to the town. My place is just a little further away from the station.
I'm imagining her ziplining down the mountain on the gondola line.
Whee!
I spotted a brown roof between the slanted white trunks of the trees and the reddening evening sky. The car took another turn at a three-way junction. Upon asking what was there on the opposite side, I learned that there was a small mountain village nearby. I heard the cry of a green pigeon again. We passed by a hedge fence with several yellow flowers growing on it before finally reaching the actual inn that doesn't this look a lot like the other thing.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
So
Same building.
now I'm once again reevaluating things. Like, is Nanai Mayuko? And is the nurse there? And Takako and Sachiko have both been here. But Sachiko is completely hallucinating a different backstory for who she is and why she would know. Because
She doesn't
can't-
want to reckon with what happened the last time she was here.
Yeah. where it's like, oh, if I know why I know this person, it's because I know that this is a sanatorium and that I was here because Takako fucking died. And all of these things that I thought about vacations and so on were a coping mechanism.
I think it's pretty easy to assume at this point that the vacations that they all thought that both of them think about with one another probably never happened.
The actual building was colored in dull brown and looked like it could melt into the snow-laden winter forest behind it at any moment. Windows with wooden frames lined the flat brick wall. Most of them were covered in ivory curtains from the other side. The tires made low, crackling sounds as they drove over the gravel driveway. The car jerked a few times as Nanai slowed down to align the vehicle to the parking spot. After a few more adjustments, we finally came to a complete halt.
We're here, eh?
I stepped out of the car, feeling slightly wobbly after all that shaking, but the invigorating scent of flowers pulled me back to reality. I followed Nanai along the gravel road, which was covered almost completely in golden flower petals. Impressed by how her sash didn't seem to come undone after all that shaking, I glanced over her shoulder to inspect the inn. One side of the building was rounded and rose toward the sky like a tower, its lattice windows only adding to that image.
Yeah, because if Sachiko is not doing well mentally, it might be that she's imagined this whole character as a hotel keeper for Nanai. When it's really just been she's checking back in.
Yep. It also had a pointy roof that reminded me of a witch's hat. From it extended a triangular roof with a few windows that covered the middle of the building. Oh, what if all the time they spent together was in here? Or almost all of it?
So you mean they met each other here originally?
Maybe, maybe not, but at least that almost all of this stuff we're getting in backstories is like, these are just stories they told each other while shut up in this sanatorium. And that, or they spent time there, some events occurred, and this is the rose-colored glasses. I am not accepting that Takako died and all of this happened and I am not well version.
Yep.
Anyway,
I can see that.
The rest of the roof was flat, with a white fence for its parapet.
So maybe like they came here originally once when Takako was dying. Sachiko tried to go back and live in the real world and couldn't manage it, and is now back here.
Yeah. And so things like Rome trip didn't happen, but meeting Nanai somewhere where Takako disappeared and so on, those sorts of things did. It's just that it happened here and Takako fucking died, and that's what happened.
And like the vacations they imagine for each other are all the time they wish they could have spent with one another and couldn't. Which would make this incredibly sad.
Oh, yeah.
APR play a non-sad Yuri game challenge?
Impossible. Tall trees behind the building extended above its roof, their colored leaves rustling in the wind. The semicircular side of the building went out of view as I ascended the fan-shaped stone stairs at the entrance. The double doors had 3 rectangles carved at their bottom and a window at the top. Above the windows, there was a rectangular patch of stained glass.
Hup.
Nanai picked up my bag with one hand while turning the metal handle with the other. She pushed the door half open with her shoulder, then turned back toward me.
Welcome, dear guest. Just wait here for a moment.
The interior is quite different. Nanai swiftly disappeared into the room beyond the lobby desk. The room fell into complete silence with her gone. The sun had almost completely set, yet the lights in the lobby were still off. The only thing to illuminate the floor was a rectangular patch of colorful light that filtered in through the stained glass. For a while, I kept staring absent-mindedly at the lobby desk. Its black wood surface was surprisingly cold to the touch. Behind the desk, I could see a fancy-looking cabinet with arched cat-like legs. Up on the shelves, I also spotted some old, foreign-looking postcards an artificial flower, and some early Christmas decorations, among other things.
One other thing I'm noticing. Did you notice that back during the tips section for Sachiko's bedroom that there was a postcard stuck in her window?
Yeah, I did.
And there's postcards here, and like you can see some of them framed along the stairwell there. I wonder if all those were the inspiration for where their vacations came from.
I'm absolutely willing to believe that.
Yeah.
A transparent vase rested on the lobby desk with a camellia branch placed in it. Next to it was a silver mechanical register decorated with vines.
Sorry to have kept you waiting.
Nanai appeared in the doorway holding a green journal.
Huh? Oh, it's working just fine, don't worry.
Realizing I was looking at the register, she pushed one of its buttons, causing the lower half to open up with a lively ka-ching. There were a few bills and some coins inside.
We don't really use it much, though.
Nanai closed it with another ka-ching.
Ka-ching!
She then placed the journal on the lobby desk.
I want you to sign your name here. Yes here, then here, and then here.
After pointing out 3 places on the paper with her fountain pen, Nanai popped its cap off, then handed it to me.
Generally, you have to sign a whole ton of paperwork when checking into a hotel.
I signed my name 3 times. The grandfather clock that towered near the far wall of the lobby had just struck the hour.
It's not a grandfather clock sound at all.
The clock's hand signaled that it was 5 o'clock.
I'll show you to your room.
Nanai stashed the journal under the desk, then circled around it. I was about to nod when the camellia branch trembled in the vase, almost as if to answer in my stead.
Yeah, look, that's the same hallway.
Same yet different.
Same yet
We
different.
ascended the semicircular stairs and took a right turn on the second-floor corridor. The floors creaked under my steps.
Maybe it's like something like... It was used as a sanatorium in the past and it isn't anymore?
The other thing I've been playing with in my head that I don't think is plausible was something like, is this a 2 timelines thing? Where it's like there's 2 different ways events might have played out, and in one world Takako is gone, and in one world Sachiko is gone, and both of them line up in particular ways, but are still not
Here's
the same.
The thing.
But
if it was something like that, you would expect that there'd be some like, you'd have to have some like early kind of hint that multiple timelines were a thing, right? Like you'd expect one of the characters to be reading a sci-fi novel about multiple timelines or something like that.
What was the sci-fi novel SeaBed about?
Something to prime. You're right. What is the sci-fi novel SeaBed about? Something that would prime the reader to think of that, though, because that's one of those ones that takes like an extra leap past what could happen in the real world. So I imagine you have to like give your reader something to kind of prime them on that. It's not something you just pull out of nowhere.
The things which made me kind of toy with it were that really fucking weird dream. With all of that odd, ominous stuff that wasn't quite clear. And then B, the fact that there's a book, SeaBed, that is apparently fantastical in some way, and that also probably aligns with the events in some way. So it's like, oh, what if they're not necessarily timelines, but what if they're both reading a book about the other one?
Right. So
like
either
that.
mutually fictional or one of them's in the fiction and the other.
Yeah.
One of them's reading about. Yeah, maybe.
I feel like.
And then like one of them is reading about scenarios and then using that to construct part of their hallucinations and. And maybe they've developed a relationship with a character in the novel.
Or something.
Yeah, that's worth considering.
Did I read any of these?
I don't think you did.
We ascended the semicircular stairs and took a right turn on the second floor corridor. The floors creaked under my steps. Windows lined the wall on my right. Looking out one of them, I could see the inner yard and its stone-paved path through a crown of leaves. To my left, I noticed several doors, all of which bore the same designs as the ones at the entrance.
Just, sorry, having an immediate, Pavlovian reaction to a room set up like this.
We turned the corner at the L-shaped corridor when Nanai finally stopped.
This is your room, eh?
She turned the key in the lock, opening the door. After entering the room, she left my bag by the side of the bed. I walked to the other end of the room and glanced outside through a large window, its elegant lace curtains
My God,
swayed
there's
in
even
the
a
light
chessboard.
breeze. I know, I was trying not to hyper focus on it.
I know it doesn't mean anything, but come on.
Spin it! Spin the chessboard
that
around!
board!
Whee!
It gave me a view of both the port town and the sea.
I'll leave your key here.
Nanai placed the key, attached to a rectangular, amber-colored, and semi-transparent key holder, on the nightstand next to the bed.
Anyway, I'll get back to work now. You're free to go anywhere you want inside the inn. We also periodically check the windows, bathrooms, and so on, but as you can see, most of our equipment is pretty old, eh? So don't hesitate to inform us if you find that lights don't work somewhere.
I will, thank you.
If there happen to be oot or something. I'd love to talk to you some more, so what'd you say to having to get dinner together tonight, eh?
And when will that be?
How about in an hour or so?
Sounds good to me.
Well, that's delightful. I'll come pick you up in an hour then.
Okay.
I can't do a fucking Midwestern or Canadian accent. What am I trying to do here? Who am I fooling? Look up a
But
YouTube video.
The valiant struggle is appreciated, though.
I am glad you appreciate it.
Nanai moved to the door and left the room after making a curt bow. After glancing out the window one more time, I sat down on the bed. It had a vine-like canopy that seemed to be carved out of wood. I took off my shoes and stretched my legs. After I was done with that, I joined my fingers and stretched my arms next. You had to step down from the sill to reach the floor, which was at a slightly lower level than the door itself. The interior furniture was of an old Western design. The green one-seater Victorian sofa had an acanthus leaf design carved into its leg. The color of the sofa's mahogany armrests had faded over time and looked almost black at certain spots. That said, its springs seemed to be in perfect condition, and with the tall backrest, the whole thing was a pleasure to sit on. I spotted a small chest on the cabinet that had the carving of a lion on its side. An ivy plant was positioned on top of it, covering its upper half with vines. The white porcelain cup made an elegant clang as I put it back down on the saucer.
Oh, that's right. I remember that year. I came back and found the entire place covered in heaps of snow, eh? Hardly something I'd forget considering how little it snows around these parts. Time sure flies, doesn't it?
That was how Nanai replied when I brought up the year we met. Thank you for showing me around at the time. Who knows where I would have ended up without your help.
Oh, don't sweat it.
Nanai made a mischievous smile. The blackwood table in the middle of the dining room had engravings of ivies and cosmos flowers on its sides. It was supported by spindle legs whose shape reminded me of dewdrops.
So, do you like it?
Like what?
A mansion.
Yes, it is quite something.
I'm glad it didn't disappoint.
I expected a smaller place since you told me you managed it alone.
I'm not really doing it alone. My auntie is also here. And during peak seasons, we hire part-timers from the town to help out. Unfortunately, we don't have a hot spring on the premises, so there aren't that many customers around this time of year.
She let out a sigh. I see. That explains why you have time to have dinner with me.
That's the long and short of it, yeah.
Cheerfulness returned to Nanai's features. A gust of wind suddenly swept through the room, making the candle lights between Nanai and myself flicker. Do you always use candles for lighting here?
No, those are for special occasions. Don't you find it romantic?
There was a dark window on the wall behind Nanai. Upon giving it a closer look, I spotted the shadows of tree leaves fluttering in the darkness, like wavelets in the night sea. With the table taking up almost the entire space of the relatively narrow, candlelit dining room, I felt almost like I was in the cabin of some western ship. It's like we're sailing in a ship.
That's the case. I hope it's a merchant vessel.
Why?
Costs a fortune to transport all this furniture from overseas, eh?
I see.
That's the only thing I can do, eh?
Have you acquired anything new lately?
A few things as usual.
Our ship's not departing tonight.
We're resupplying on water and foodstuffs right now.
And once that is done?
Well, the wind looks favorable and there's not a single cloud in the sky. You could sail ship at any time if that's your wish.
Nanai let out a hearty, sailor-like guffaw.
You always like that.
Did we swap?
Maybe. No,
Okay.
I don't think so. Are you always like that?
Nanai asked after we both calmed down. No way. Takako was always like that, though, I added.
Sounds like a fun person to be around. Shame I didn't get to meet her.
I bet you two would have hit it off. Nanai made an amiable smile again. Did I just say spile?
I think you might have.
She seems to possess an entire repertoire of spiles and knew how to use them. As a result, I ended up revealing more than I originally intended. I shut my mouth and shifted my gaze to the window behind her. Beyond the huge shadow of the mountain, bright stars decorated the night sky. It really was a huge mansion. I couldn't imagine how Nanai, who was more or less my age, ended up owning such a place. You said your aunt was also working here, but what about your parents?
Ooh, I don't have any. My mother passed away when I was little, and as far as I know, my father ran off before I was even born.
Nanai said that as though it was nothing. I see. Nanai made another smile, perfectly attuned to the situation. It didn't seem like she was bothered, so it would have been odd for me to apologize. Not knowing what to do, I shifted my attention to the food, and to the fact that her shirt looks like she's wearing two of the same shirt, one on top of the other, with the way that the hems and cuffs are. Steam billowed forth from the boiled radish as I used my chopsticks to slice one. I put it in my mouth, tasting its warmth. You prepared quite a feast today. I could smell the mouth-watering, salty-sweet aroma of the well-seasoned meat and potato stew. Among the many plates on the table, besides the steamed radish, there was also one for sea bream sashimi with shiso leaves. I picked up an oyster from another plate and put it in my mouth, feeling its gentle sweetness spread across my tongue. Takako was not a fan of the taste and would always move oysters to my plate.
Don't be shy to speak up if there's anything you don't like. And you don't need to eat everything. I'll happily finish off you leftovers.
I'm not particularly picky about my food, thank you. I felt the slippery texture of the oyster in my mouth. A mellow sweetness enveloped my tongue as I bit through the flesh. The fact Takako disliked this was still baffling to me. I let my gaze settle on the flickering candle lights up in the gently swaying chandelier as I reminisced. The two candle holders lined up on the table below seemed to be designed in a fashion similar to the chandelier. I recalled seeing an almost identical chandelier in the lobby room, too. Gentle orange light illuminated the room. Did you find any good furniture that day? Nanai looked up from her food, momentarily ceasing her attempts to separate a portion of the fish from a stubborn bone using only her chopsticks.
Yeah, what the hell is up with that? Because, like, I could, the sleeves, I could just be like, oh, it's ruffles, right? But no, she's wearing two of the same shirt. She's double shirting it.
Yeah.
I couldn't explain to you why.
She was cold.
Either that or it's just like, that's what it's kind of like a frill at the end of a dress shirt. But
it is probably that, but I still think it's much funnier to assume she's wearing two of the same shirt.
Got a double shirt today?
It was a two-shirt day.
Yeah, I got really lucky that day. Managed to find a mahogany sofa and a writing desk with glass doors. That sofa is actually the one in your room.
I recalled the green Victorian sofa I saw in my room. You have good taste.
Thanks.
From the other end of the table, I could see Nanai flash another smile. I heard the brief rattling of the windows. The wind must have picked up a bit,
It's just seasonal wind.
said Nanai. I shifted my gaze to the window.
In these parts, the winds get stronger around the same time every year. Don't worry though, it won't blow the entire building over or nothing.
I'm glad to hear that. Nanai, after sipping out all the soup left in her spoon, stuck it in my direction for me to inspect.
Good thing about antiques is that they can stand the test of time. Look at this spoon, for example. Been around for half a century, eh? And with enough care and maintenance, it'll stay in tip-top shape for another 50 years, no problem.
Nanai showed me the other side of the spoon by rotating it in her grip.
In the past, these things weren't as common and expendable as they are today, so every article was made with care by an actual master of the craft rather than machines.
I see. I felt as though I heard someone knocking on the wall.
Oh, that's also the wind. Wonder if I left one of the windows open.
Another gust clashed against the window behind Nanai. Soon after, I heard the knocking sound again from the direction of the corridor.
Did you think it was a ghost?
I don't believe in things like that.
I see. Oh, I'm full.
Nanai placed her plate back on the table. There were a few more plates on Nanai's side as we finished eating. You really ate it all.
Wait,
did we swap?
You really ate it all.
This is nothing. If anything, I'm still a bit hungry. Oh, nope.
Oh,
we swapped
this is
and then
nothing.
reswapped.
If anything, I'm still a bit hungry. Looking after an inn requires a lot of physical work, you know. Besides, this is dinner.
We heard the same knocking sound from the corridor.
Wanna go look around the area tomorrow? I can show you around.
Nanai pushed her chair back and leaned forward against the table, as she is gradually becoming Scottish.
Shit, you're right. That's where I'm drifting. That's where I'm drifting towards Scottish now. I can't.
No,
Why did I sign?
it's happening. It's happening.
You said a tour of the Anglosphere. That's what we're getting.
That's what we're getting. I got what I asked for. Are you sure I wouldn't be imposing on you too much?
Of course not. Want to do it myself.
In that case, I'll take you up on the offer.
All right, you just leave everything to me. I'll show you all the best places. Son of a bitch, this sucks. This is awful. Why do people watch this channel? That's a new color. Green and blue.
Interesting.
I don't think
so
we've seen
maybe
that one
I'm
before.
wrong to associate the colors with people. Light filtered in through the window, painting the room in a pale bluish hue. A hueish.
Nah.
The windows seemed to have frosted over during the night. I could even spot a small icicle extending from the roof. The courtyard visible through the window was now blanketed in white. I heard the floor creak.
Wow, went to winter that quickly?
A tiny bead of water traveled down the shaft of the icicle before soundlessly dropping to the ground below. Also super convenient just after talking about, oh, that year it was suddenly winter, and winter never happens around here. The withered grass crunched like shaved ice under my feet. There was a small hill with a camphor tree in the center of the courtyard. Its branches extended from its trunk in complex patterns, reminiscent of lightning, forming an awe-inspiring canopy that sparkled beautifully in the morning dew. A tranquil silence fell upon the area, giving the impression that the entire world had entered a deep slumber. The flower beds surrounding the hill had all withered in the morning sun. A gardening cart that had been forgotten nearby was half full of rainwater. I kept listening as the frosty air chilled my skin. One of the tree branches shuddered, sending drops of dew to the ground. I looked up and spotted a small bird with a long tail among the leaves. I continued listening. This time I heard a knocking sound.
Let me out! Let me out, I'm in the walls.
I stepped on the thin ice, making it crack under my feet. I stopped at a place just a little ways away from the courtyard. I looked up at the towering pole before me, its tip backdropped by a sky of light clouds. There was a pulley and a rope attached to said tip. Another gust of wind swept across the frozen grounds, making the metallic parts attached to the rope hit against the wooden pole with a knocking sound. It looked like a flagpole, but I saw no trace of a flag anywhere. I spent a few moments looking at the noisy pole, trying to imagine what kind of flag it once bore when I suddenly heard something else. It sounded like a person's voice coming from the main entrance of the mansion. I thought I heard Nanai's laugh. Upon returning to the mansion, I came upon Nanai chatting with a couple of children riding bicycles.
And that's when I told him it was this big, and he was like, no way.
I couldn't make out what they were talking about, but judging from her swaying shoulders, it seemed like Nanai found the conversation amusing.
And then I asked him what he was trying to find in the soup aisle.
Oh my god, you fucking called it. That's actually... They're trying to catch the River King.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're Yep. Yeah, they are.
Today's the day I catch the River King, I swear.
Oh, that's some confidence, eh?
The children all wore waist bags and backpacks. I could spot fishing rods poking out from some of them.
I swear that wasn't on purpose.
I saw it the other day. It was this big.
Oh, I saw a bigger one. It was like this.
You idiots, the king of the river can't be that small. It's gotta be at least this big. The children opened their arms wide, trying to show off how large a size they were thinking of.
Don't forget to bring some for me too, eh? Think I'd let you keep your bicycles and use my river for free?
That's dirty.
You gotta play dirty now and then to survive in this world.
Everyone gets an equal share then. With that, the children began pedaling their bicycles and rode off toward the woods.
Would children really be riding bicycles in the middle of winter?
Seems kind of odd.
Yeah.
And fishing in...
Fishing in winter is a thing, but ice fishing is specific.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't be wearing something like this in winter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, having a guest right now, so don't forget to share. Don't forget her share either.
Seriously?
It was a mistake to stop here.
Nanai sounded another one of her hearty laughs.
Oh, be careful out there.
She waved the children goodbye.
Good morning. Oh, no, that's you.
Good morning.
Ew, good morning.
Nanai looked behind her shoulder in response to my greeting.
They're kids from the town. Apparently they're here to fish today.
Said Nanai, noticing me stare at their receding backs. What were you talking about?
Food, mostly. We might get some fresh fish for dinner tonight.
I see.
Provided they manage to catch anything, that is.
You could have taught them how to make a bamboo net.
That's a good idea, but those kids don't know when to stop, so,
Nanai shrugged her shoulders. Do they come here a lot?
Plenty of places to play around here. Mountains, rivers, lakes. This area is open to the public. We even have a library.
Of course they do. Why wouldn't they have a library?
Yep.
Why wouldn't they have a library?
Right?
So, this is the sanatorium, and it's the inn, and it's the clinic, apparently.
Yeah, but...
But how?
If this feels like it's in the future, right? From the Takako ones? So
I
maybe
don't
it's
know.
just under new management now, or maybe it was a sanatorium in the past, and now it's...
Maybe. Though it'd be, I gotta wonder how that all lines up with... I don't know. We'll see.
I think right now the speculative timeline is Takako dies and Sachiko spends time here as well. Perhaps both of them spent time here. Sachiko goes back and tries to live a normal life and doesn't work out, and then she comes back here now.
But it's an inn now.
But it's an inn now, yeah.
So we're looking at a timeline where this has only been an inn for like a year or two?
For a little bit, yeah. That if that's the timeline, if that's the correct timeline, yeah. There's also the possibility Sachiko could be much older than we think. She said Nana is about her age, but we don't necessarily trust her, right?
That's true. I had been trusting specifically the timeline being discussed with Narasaki.
Mm-hmm.
That
might have been. Yeah, maybe.
Which
but we also know that Narasaki has seen her before.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, but specifically for putting a maximum limit on
like 4 years.
If this was a sanatorium, how long ago would it have been an inn?
Remember, it was a sanatorium that had maybe like 2-3 people in it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not entirely unreasonable that when they got down that low, they just shuttered.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a fucking heritage building or whatever, right? They're not going to change it, so.
But it puts a limit on things. So, for example, if we hear that this inn has been in the family, or if we hear that she grew up here with her aunts or something like that, nanai, things like that, then that puts us firmly in doesn't jive with the
not necessarily
territory.
We've speculated that maybe some of the characters aren't names don't quite line up with how we think they should in Takiko's perspective. It could be that they are indeed there and present for them, and when she says in, she's just kind of being a little bit blithe.
Right, so that goes... So my point being that puts us in a place where it's not, in fact, used to be a sanatorium, is now an inn, right? It is still the same thing.
Right, then it would probably be like the same thing, and maybe she's calling it an inn for the sake of Sachiko.
Yep, or Sachiko is just not experiencing reality quite the way it is.
Right, because again, making sure she signed all those papers before coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Nanai pointed at a building further in the distance. I see.
That aside, what are you doing outside so early in the morning? Did something happen?
No, I was just curious about something. Nanai glanced in the direction I came from.
Oh, so you found out?
Only because of this windy weather. Might have been a different story otherwise.
I was planning to let you enjoy the mystery a little while longer. Damn this stupid wind, it ruined everything on the first day.
Another breeze swept across the courtyard, carrying some leaves and a few leftover golden petals from the withered flowers. And there was that knocking sound in the distance again. Nanai let out another guffaw.
Oh. You alright with toast for breakfast?
If you have hot coffee to go with it.
Of course we do, I'll prepare it right away.
The pleasant smell of baking bread filled the room. It reminded me of the bakery near my house when I was little. I used to buy bread from them every morning. Their entrance had a huge pink sign in the shape of a rabbit. I held a tray, a pair of tongs, and some money. The fragrant scent of baking bread, the sweet aroma of fresh confectionery, butter, and jam would completely overwhelm me. After a few minutes of hesitation, I would always pick melon bread and sausage rolls. Sometimes I'd run into Takako. She often bought the rabbit bread, which came in the same shape as the sign above the entrance.
Yes, the year of the rabbit, didn't you hear?
What was the name of that bakery again?
So, do you like your eggs fully fried, or...?
Nanai's words pulled me back to reality. The cafeteria at the end of the corridor, and to the left from the lobby, had a room shaped like a fan, with several windows on its arched wall. There was also a bar counter by one of the walls. Nanai had been preparing breakfast behind it. I'll have whatever you recommend. I'm not picky about food.
Alright, then I'll do yours like I do my own, fully fried.
A warm-colored sofa and the dim lighting in the room gave the cafeteria a vintage feel that you'd have found in many coffee shops a decade ago. It reminded me of the cafe I used to frequent. Through the window, I could see the leaves of the tree in the courtyard. I'll go with almost fully fried.
Okay.
A sizzling sound reminiscent of heavy applause followed. accompanied by the appetizing smell of frying bacon spreading across the room. I watched the apron-clad Nanai do her work behind the counter. After confirming the temperature of the frying pan, she picked up 2 eggs from a bowl, broke them open with one hand, then dropped both into the pan. I heard another applause.
Here you go.
She placed the coffee pot she held in her left hand and the basket of bread she held in her right on the leather-covered table. After that, she slid the 2 plates she held under one arm to her freed hands and nimbly lined them on the table before sitting down in front of me. You're pretty good with your hands.
Just have to figure out how the center mass works. Anyone could do it with a bit of training. Would you like more coffee?
Yes, please. As I waited, she refilled the cup I had emptied with a fresh serving of steaming coffee, then placed it in front of me.
Well then, let's eat.
Yes. The toast was just the right hue of golden brown. She was very good at this. Using my knife, I scooped up some butter from the jar Nanai handed me, savoring its alluring fragrance. After spreading the butter on her toast, Nanai placed some cabbages, some bacon, and a fried egg on it. Once she was done, she began nibbling away at the bread.
Oh, it didn't turn out too bad.
She said that with her eyes closed while confirming the taste. The wet cabbages sparkled in the light. I placed only a piece of fried egg on mine before taking a bite. My teeth penetrated the crunchy outer layer and reached the soft, warm insides. It was only lightly toasted, but it felt just right. She was definitely good at this.
I still have to finish cleaning the rooms, so would it be alright if I showed you the place this evening?
Said Nanai after taking a sip of her coffee. Sure.
Been a while since we had such clear weather. I want to hang the laundry outside before it's too late.
After letting out a sigh, Nanai leaned against her chair and stretched her neck.
Yeah, it definitely can't be winter if she's hanging the... Well, I mean, you could hang the laundry outside in winter, but...
I feel like it'd freeze if it was a wintry winter and it was really frozen.
Yeah, because then you freeze your... Yeah, no.
I glanced outside the window to see a girl walking on the stone path in the courtyard.
Oh, do you see someone out there?
Nanai noticed my gaze as she opened her eyes. Yes.
I bet it's the library.
Huh?
It's a library building just next to ours. The books there are pretty old, but it's a big place and there's quite a selection. As long as you don't want anything modern. If you like reading, you should check it out. Do you have any plans until the evening?
Not really.
I see.
I felt the sweet smell grow more distinguishable as I continued down the stone path. I made out the hedgerow Nanai told me about right away. It extended further along the path up until it disappeared behind the west wing of the mansion. I continued down the path, covered by golden petals, until I saw a round roof beyond the hedge. 2 large wooden doors barred the entrance to the library.
It's the same library.
I slowly pushed one of them open, making its rusty hinges creak in response. Dust filled my nostrils as the sunlight making its way into the room through the partially open door painted a rectangular patch of light on the library's floor. The spacious cylinder-like room had bookcases lining its walls. It had a small staircase on the other end leading to an alcove with a huge window that circled around the entire building. The dome-shaped ceiling had a circular window, an oculus, in the middle, that let slightly more light into the otherwise relatively dim interior.
Kind of like the Parthenon building that they went.
Exactly like that building.
Exactly like the Parthenon, huh?
The door closed as I pulled my hand off it, isolating all sounds from the outside and giving way for white noise. The middle-aged woman at the counter turned her gaze to me.
I don't think we've ever seen her before.
Everybody has purple hair in this game. Everybody has
Hers was
purple
more like
hair
a
in
rose,
this game.
though. Like a reddish purple.
Okay. I gave her a small nod. Wait, I didn't even read the first line, did I?
I think you did.
Oh, Okay,
You can read it again if you want.
I will. I'm feeling it. The middle-aged woman at the counter turned her gaze to me. I gave her a small nod. She smiled back at me in response before returning to her work. The clicking of my shoes was the only sound bouncing off the round walls of the interior.
And like San Francisco, the big hilly city, right?
Yeah?
Matches kind of like the mountainside port town that they're in right now.
Sure does.
I don't know what to make of that.
And like trips to the sea and so on.
Yep,
it is by the sea.
It is by the sea. Yeah.
The bookcases in the center of the hall resembled the giant stone tablets of some ancient ruin. The light seeping in from the ceiling illuminated a few of them, making the grains of dust in the vicinity sparkle in silver. I tried opening one of the books, but it was from a publisher I'd never heard of. I ultimately gave up on trying to find something interesting and instead chose to find a comfortable place where I could read the books I brought myself. After passing a few more bookcases, I found a somewhat bigger space with a few desks and some chairs for reading. Some books and a whole heap of notes rested on one of the desks. Beyond the desk, I spotted a girl on a stepladder looking at one of the shelves. I found a one-person desk next to the window. I sat down and took out some of my books. After removing my silver bookmark, I began scanning the text from the right. The girl I spotted earlier returned to her desk as I was turning a page. She placed the small tower of books she'd been carrying on the desk, then pulled out her chair.
What is that?
I don't know.
That's in English. Those are English characters. Hold on, I'm going up to the screen to read them. Stall for time.
Oh, it's all falling apart. You're not stalling for time. I'm not good at stalling for time. Anything. I was told to say anything, so I did.
Does appear to be English text of some sort, though, but the last two lines appear to be illegible.
And the first two lines didn't seem to make a ton of sense.
Yeah, although Joe Smith was clearly legible there.
Her long hair fluttered in the wind as she sat down. Without so much as giving me a single glance, the girl opened a large book and placed it in front of herself, hiding her entire frame from view. I returned my attention to my own book. I had to flip a few pages back to find the line where I left off. The fluorescent lamps on the walls illuminated the page. By the time I closed the book, the inside of the building had gotten dark, with only barely noticeable slivers of orange light coming from the ceiling window. The girl was still at her desk, jotting something down in her notebook. I pulled up my sleeve and checked my watch. I stood up, pushed the chair back into its place, and left the library. The woman at the counter was nowhere to be seen anymore. I pulled one of the doors open with another loud creak and had a gust of wind blow straight into my face, propelling the sedentary dust of the room into the air. The west wing of the mansion was right in front of the library. The branches of the courtyard's large oak peeked out from behind the building. The entire scenery wore an orange tint. I spotted someone walking down the corridor inside the mansion. The silhouette of a woman with tied-up hair turned the corner and disappeared from sight.
That's what the woman at the desk, her hair had been tied up.
I was walking along the hedgerow with my eyes fixed on the window when I heard voices from the courtyard.
Also, the lady who runs the clinic, Narasaki.
Yeah.
Not that young anymore. How old was she again? I don't know who's talking here. Her 55th birthday was last month. People in the Showa period retired around that age.
Nanai and a man wearing blue work clothes were talking in front of the back door. Lightly touching the brim of his hat, the man made a small bow to Nanai before turning around to leave. Nanai noticed me and turned the handle to close the half-open door.
Oh, hello, Sachiko.
What was that?
Paying for the gas.
What were you talking about?
Nothing, just some local gossip, eh?
Who is the person who's 55? Is it Sachiko?
Yeah, see, that's what I was wondering about. Is this indeed Sachiko is much older now and relapsing?
Mm-hmm.
And that would help explain kind of like the big differential in time period. It could be that maybe she visited the clinic again back at that age, but what we're seeing now is not that visit, but a visit far in the future.
So on this, we can't trust what we saw in the prologue with regards to the timeline.
Oh, we can. Just maybe that all happened. She went there for a little bit, came back again, and now this is her coming back again in the future.
Oh, so you're saying getting the phone call to come here and planning the vacation is faking us out.
Right.
This is not the continuation of that. Okay.
But another disparate instance of it in the future.
Okay. Yeah, that could be.
And that Nanai here is either the original Nanai's daughter or the niece, or Sachiko imagined the original Nanai based off of this Nanai's appearance.
I was just about to go to your room. I want us to have a walk together. I hope you didn't forget.
What about your duties?
Already finished all there was to do, eh? I guess that you've been... my guess is that you've been to the library.
Yeah.
Glad you found a place to relax.
She cocked her head and gave me a light smile. Can I come like this?
Of course. Good, then let's go over there first.
Wait. Yeah, whatever. The order that people talk is still gonna keep throwing me. Turning away from the mansion, Nanai started toward the other end of the courtyard. After taking a few more steps, she glanced behind her shoulder with a smile, checking to see if I was following her.
Checking to see if we were following, because, we don't quite move as quickly anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We continued down the path stretching beyond the library and all the way to the forest in the mountains.
Look, it's a camellia.
What if Sachiko has anterograde amnesia? What if it's the reason that she thinks the timeline is somewhere between 4 and 2 years ago?
Because she can't form new memories?
Yeah, she just hasn't been able to form new memories at all since the time Takako died. Something traumatic happened, whether physical or non-physical, and she just doesn't have those memories. So she has to confabulate a lot to make events make sense.
Yeah.
Because the reality is it's been years, and in her head, it hasn't. So all this crap has to get filled in order to view the world as a coherent whole.
Right. Oh, that could be it.
Following Nanai's finger, my gaze fell upon a host of pink flowers blooming in the nearby thicket. Nanai stretched on her tiptoes to reach one of the branches.
I'll take one.
She twisted her hand, breaking off a branch with 2 flowers on it. After giving it a scrutinizing look, she showed it to me.
Thinking of putting these up at the entrance. What do you think?
I see, so these flowers were locally picked.
Gotta take advantage of the fact that we live so close to nature, eh? Does make more civilized things like shopping a bit of a pain, though.
She hugged the branch to her chest.
Don't you find winter bloomers somewhat more refined?
Nanai's question came out of nowhere. After some brief consideration, I agreed with her. That might be true, yeah. Especially compared to flowers that always predictably bloom in the summer.
I know, right? Winter takes its toll on all living things, but if you look around, there are still flowers blooming even in conditions like that. Makes me respect nature all the more.
Maybe they really are having winter and it's just a very mild winter?
Maybe? Yeah, maybe we were wrong to harp on that, but
Yeah.
it's... Yeah, okay.
I'm seeing some Japanese camellia blooming over there.
Nanai looked toward the other side of the stream by the road. A few red camellia petals were drifting along in the water. I also spotted some blue gentiana flowers blooming in the shrubbery.
The lake further down this way. Let's go.
We passed through a dark thicket and came out onto an opening with a lake. The image of the mountain, crowned by greenery, was reflected upside down on its crystal clear surface. Upon descending the path running somewhat above the lake surface, we came onto what seemed like an animal trail. The water of the lake was clear enough for me to see down to the bottom. The surface was calm, with only the odd breeze disturbing its stillness from time to time.
Oh, I can't see them today.
Nanai was looking toward the lake with one hand above her eyes to block out the sun. Following her gaze, I saw a row of ducks sailing on the water. Were you looking for a bird?
Yeah, I spotted some unusual ones just the other day.
She pointed at the water with her other hand.
You can see those ducks by the reeds, right?
Yes.
Those are mainly Eurasian widgeons with a few Eurasian coots mixed in. The ones with brown heads are widgeons. The black ones are coots.
Is there actually a bird called a widgeon? Cool new bird, what's it called? Struggling desperately to think of a name that isn't pigeon. It's a...
Yes, it is.
Widgeon.
It is indeed the name of a bird.
Fucking ornithologist, man.
Gotta love it.
I can also see a couple with white spots on their beaks.
Those are coots.
I see. Every bird that quacked or squeaked in the background, Nanai named. The same went for each unique type of grass or bush we passed.
It's okay if we make a little detour.
Asked Nanai around the time we reached the middle portion of the path by the lake.
It gets slippy here, so be careful.
The narrow path stretching out to the side had barely half the width of the beaten path we were using. The steps leading up the hill were basically just a bunch of moss-covered rocks aligned in a row.
Won't take long. The place I want to reach is just up these steps.
Nanai took a step up the rocks and stretched out her free hand toward me. As I took hold of it, Nanai easily pulled me up in a surprising display of strength. The sound of running water intensified as we climbed upward.
Hey!
Nanai, who reached the top ahead of me, started waving to someone.
Oh, it's not I. Came to see how you were doing.
Nanai let out a hearty laugh. She then gave me her hand again, pulling me to the top as well. The moment I stepped on even ground, I realized the sound I'd been hearing belonged to a waterfall. I could smell splashing water. The path led us to a human-sized rock rising above the bank of the waterfall. Below us, two boys with fishing rods were staring at the water.
Or are you only worried about the fish?
Look, Nanai! I heard the second voice from the opposite end of the river. A third boy seized a rope dangling from one of the trees, and after taking a few steps back, swung across the river.
You picked that one.
Ah! He sounded a Tarzan-like howl and painted a wide arch in the air before landing on another decently sized rock further away from us. The rope and the tree branches it was attached to creaked under his weight. He let go of the rope and began energetically waving at us.
Hey, I don't want to see you ever do that again. What if you fall and break your neck?
Ah! The boy pressed his fingers against his cheeks in an attempt to mimic the exaggerated expression of a certain Munch painting.
Thought you came here to fish, eh?
Wow.
I knew you only came here for the fish. Don't worry, I love you all right next to the fish.
Nanai let out a laugh as she descended the little path from the rock.
So, did you catch anything?
Huh? Don't you guys feel colder all of a sudden? Said one of the boys at the bank with a smile.
Yeah, I think it's about time we started packing up.
Replied the boy that crossed the river.
Now voiced by me.
Yeah, whatever.
Oh, let's see.
Finishing her descent, Nanai crouched in front of the fish basket.
Oh, you got some chars. 4, 5, 6. This one's pretty big.
Hey, that one is mine.
Said one of the boys, wiping his wet hair with a handkerchief. Who's that lady, Nanai?
A new friend. She's our guest.
Hello.
Hello.
The boy who previously asked who I was met my modest greeting with a deep bow. It was me who said hello, but I sounded like one of them because it's really hard to tell who's talking in this game.
It's really hard.
The other two boys with fishing rods also bowed.
I thought the Ushiromi family curse was bad. Make sure there's something for me and my guest, okay?
You can have this.
The boy pointed at the biggest fish in the basket.
For me, thank you.
Oh, what about me?
You can have this.
He pointed at the smallest fish. Oh, I think we swapped it. It's meant to be, They offered the big fish to Sachiko and offered the
little
smallest one to Nanai.
Got some guts, kid. Ah, nice. What a great game this is. Nothing weird happening.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And it's got a fishing mini game.
It's got a fishing mini game. Let's finish this. I think we got enough time to finish this scene, and then we'll call it a sode. Make sure to head straight home, eh?
We know. The boys disappeared behind the corner.
Well, then I think it's time for us to head back as well.
With that, she turned toward the direction of the mansion. We took a road along the mountain on our way back. Nanai carried a bundle of winter flowers under one arm while holding the basket of fish we received from the children.
Planning just casually show you around, but I guess I ended up forcing all this extra legwork on you. Sorry about that.
When Nanai looked my way, I shook my head in response. It was fun.
Glad to hear it.
I see you like children. Nanai considered the mountain slope for a moment.
I do. Besides, it's more dangerous around here than you'd think. Still, I wouldn't go so far as to forbid the kids from playing in the mountains. I know the parents of all the children that come here, so I can't help but getting worried every time a group is late to return.
Nanai slightly raised her chin and narrowed her eyes. The part of the sky she gazed at still had some faint remnants of light blue. The moon above was full and shone with a bright, dazzling silver. I could hear the sound of splashing water near the rocks below us. The river, too, was clear enough to see through. The rocks resting at the bottom sparkled in the moonlight. From time to time, a fish with black spots would swim by as well.
Look at Halcyon.
A colorful bird flew along the calm stream. The feathers on its back glittered in blue, even in this lighting.
Wonder if it's trying to catch a fish. Oh, that's you.
I wonder if it's trying to catch a fish.
I think so. They tend to land on the branches above the water, and once a fish passes by, they instantly make a move on it. When there are no conveniently placed branches, they just hover above the surface. Well known for their incredible ability to track down and catch fish.
I see.
One seems to be really good at its job, though. Look at how steady its flight is, eh? Sometimes you can see them having trouble matching the flow of the river, jerking back and forth. Imagine they eventually learn how to do it correctly by watching their parents or siblings.
Shortly after the halcyon abruptly disappeared from view, I heard a splash of water. A moment later, it had already landed on a branch with a fish in its beak.
Oh, whoa. We were lucky to see that.
Indeed. The trees littering the mountain slope on the other side of the river had crowns the color of autumn. The sky above them had now turned completely dark.
Yeah, let's grow this fish when we get back. Could make sashimi out of the big one, but most river fish go better with salt.
Said Nanai after a long period of silence. You're the boss.
What?
Your energy and easygoing attitude reminded me of someone.
Ooh, how so?
She was an oddball too.
Hey, you calling me an old ball now?
Nanai raised her arms and shrugged her shoulders, seemingly trying to confirm her own appearance. I couldn't help but chuckle. She answered me with a mischievous smile.
Dinner's gonna be ready in a heartbeat, eh? I'll drop by your room once it's done.
All right.
What a great...
I also just realized, if Sachiko has anterograde amnesia, That would explain things like why she doesn't remember making the appointments.
Yep.
To come here.
Yep.
Because she can't. It just fell out of her head. It would explain potentially why she didn't remember getting the business card and why the doctor was surprised it was like she had received the business card for the first time despite already having one.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think you're onto it. I think that's
coming around to your theory that this is quite far in the future from where we thought it was.
Yeah, I think that's what
you're
we're
right.
looking at here.
I think that was the missing piece.
I think between us we got a solid lead here.
Yeah.
Anyway, join us next time when we continue this great and normal game.
Yeah.
Nothing weird.
Fishing
mini game.
Fishing mini game.
Leave a comment if you enjoyed the fishing mini game. S rank.
Smash that like, comment and subscribe.